Alors, mesdames et messieurs, permettez-moi de vous rappeler que certaines règles s'appliquent lorsque vous vous adressez aux membres du Conseil. Tout intervenant doit s'inscrire avant la séance de façon à avoir le droit de poser des questions limitées à 2. Lorsque vous posez votre question, vous devez obligatoirement vous adresser au maire qui préside la séance et non directement à un membre du Conseil. Votre question doit être claire et précise, sans préambule. Vous devez être poli et respectueux envers les membres du Conseil. Si vous ne respectez pas ces règles, vous serez invité à vous retirer et à quitter la salle du Conseil. La prise de photos, de vidéos et les enregistrements sont interdits sans la permission du maire d'arrondissement. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to remind you that certain rules apply when you address Council members. Each individual is requested to register prior to the Council meeting in order to have the right to ask questions not exceeding 2. When addressing the Council, you have to direct your questions solely to the mayor presiding over the Council meeting and not directly to any Council member. Your question has to be clear and precise without preamble. If you do not respect these rules, you will be asked to retire and to leave the Council chamber. Taking pictures, filming, and recording are forbidden without the mayor's authorization. Madame Tamara Walters, si vous voulez vous avancer au micro, s'il vous plaît. Ça va être l'autre côté, je m'excuse, Madame Walters, de l'autre côté. Alors.
Hi. Good evening. Mr. Mayor, members of the Borough Council, Pierrefonds-Roxboro residents. My name is Tamara Walter, residing at civic address 5915 Marceau, property adjacent to civic address 5909 Marceau. I am here today to contest the request for minor exemptions numbered DM 3001 505376, 3001 505400, and 3001 505401. The delimiter between our two properties has been a hedge located on the 5909 Marceau property. The distance between the hedge and the property line is approximately 8 feet. This 8-foot strip of land has been solely and publicly maintained by me and used as my property for as long as I have lived at 5915 Marceau. I'm here today to state publicly that I claim ownership of this strip of land. Sorry.
Your address again, which one?
Sorry?
What was your address again on Marceau, please?
5915 Marceau. A judicial application to institute proceedings to confirm property rights, along with a request for a provisional injunction, has been submitted before the court. A temporary injunction to prevent destruction of the hedge and to prevent any construction development on this 8-foot wide parcel of land has been granted by a judge. We further await the judge's ruling regarding this matter.
Well, I don't have that information in front of me, so if you can submit that to us at your earliest convenience,
Sure,
that would be wonderful. You can bring it tomorrow to City Hall, ma'am, if you like.
Okay, yeah.
And at least we'll have that information, and we can give that to Madame Castonguay and her team.
If I may,
Go
Mr.
ahead, Madame
Mayor,
Corbet,
if I may, Mr. Mayor, that is why, Mrs. Walter, your name sounds familiar, you know, when you came to register.
Yes.
Because the attorney of Mrs. Walters had served us. We are not a party to the action, but we are mise en cause. So we are made aware. Our legal advisor did not appear in court physically, but did contact the attorney of Mrs. Walters to be kept posted about what was happening with the file. So we will follow, of course, because if a right if ownership of that strip of land is recognized, that will influence, because then the final square footage and limits of the lot will change.
That's right.
So we will, but we have all the proceedings. I can send you a copy if you want.
We will receive that, as Madame Corbet just said, at her earliest convenience. We have it. We'll make ourselves aware of the file, and we'll go from there.
Okay,
and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think anything can happen on those properties when there is a litigation on it or a decision pending.
Right.
So we're going to look at all of that tomorrow. If not this week, and make sure we understand what can be done in the meantime. So we'll keep you aware of it. If we don't contact you directly, Maître Corbeil will, and at least give you some information in terms of where we are with that, okay?
Okay. You don't know if that project has been approved yet, the minor
For the three ones, well, it's tonight, we're deciding tonight.
Okay.
So, no.
Okay, and then I have an opinion. My
Yes.
second question.
Yes, go ahead, ma'am.
Being a resident of Marceau Street and right adjacent to this property, I'm not sure how many of you have walked on Marceau. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the street and the fabric of that street.
I think we all are.
Okay, then you must all recognize that that particular property, 5905 Marceau, is really a magnificent property. It's not run down, it was wonderfully maintained, it's beautifully landscaped. Yes, it's a large lot, but it is the showcase property of our street. So I'm baffled as to why we would allow that property to be demolished, this magnificent house to be demolished, the trees all cut down, to build to squeeze three buildings together onto that lot. It's very difficult for me to understand why we would want to do that when it goes so much against the fabric of our street.
Well, thank you very much for your comment or question. A lot of folks share that opinion, particularly in the older areas of our community. Whenever there is a purchase of a lot, oftentimes it's either renovated or, in the rare occasion, demolished and requests to rebuild on the actual lot or subdivide the lot, whatever it would be allowed according to our regulations. In this particular case, you know the file very well. It's proposed that the lot is subdivided in three, and three smaller homes are built there. But we have yet to make a decision on this tonight, ma'am, and I urge you to wait till later and you'll know the outcome of it. But I think we all share your opinion here. We have also a CCU committee that takes into consideration the neighborhood, the adjacent homes, the fabric, as you mentioned. Is it always perfect? No. You can't build the same type of home in many cases, so people choose to build something that's newer, modern, than maybe what was once upon a time. And that's within their right to make that proposal and that request. It's what happens from then on becomes our responsibility, and the CCU and then council finally deciding or not, taking into consideration the materials, the landscape, and the rest of it. So again, this is a lot that's being asked to be subdivided in three, and tonight you'll see our decision as council, as I can't tell you now until we read the resolution. But your comments are well made and shared on many fronts by many. So I appreciate you coming this evening.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Monsieur Ross Titt.
Good evening, Mr. Stitt.
Good evening. Well, I try to,
Now we can hear you.
that's okay, good. First question, draft resolution, PPC-moi 3001-458276, condo building in an H3 territory at 10,500 Boulevard Gouin, presented to the public just March 13th passed.
Yeah.
Last month. My question, the residents, some residents showed up and their concern was, well, first of all, sometimes these are very ambiguous, the agendas and what were handed out. Usually I bring it up at the time, but I don't think I did that evening because obviously I had a whole bunch of other questions as well as other people had questions. But for example, when we look at the agenda for that project, it says new multi-family building, 24 housing units, 4 stories. But then when we read the specifics and the standards, norms, and derogations, we see that it says building height up to 6 stories. So right away, my question is, this should have up to 6 stories instead of 4 stories on it. which would be a bit clearer. And the concerns at that meeting were basically the height, too high. Some residents were from 4th Avenue South were there, and they said this building's going to be, you know, if it is 6 stories, even 4 stories, they'll be gazed upon by the people in the condo. The other concern was basically parking and traffic, since it says 24 indoor parking units for the 3-story building. So obviously, if it's 6, hopefully there'll be more indoor parking units for the parking. But since there's hardly any exterior parking, just 2 spaces, it looks like probably, at least if not the owners of these condos, these new condos, if not them, it'll be their visitors will probably be parking somewhere on the street. So
what's the question?
well, my concern is clarification on the agenda for the urban planning advisory meeting, and
Well, I'll make sure that we verify that, and if in fact there's information that's missing, we'll make sure that in future meetings that it isn't the case. Could it be that in this particular case there is information maybe that isn't what was presented? I'm not sure, Mr. Stitt, I wasn't there, but I will make sure with Madame Castonguay that if you did bring it up, go ahead.
because tonight you're going to be voting on
Yeah.
passing this project
Yeah.
through. So my question really is how dense, how high, how many stories in this building? Or do you even have to know that to approve
5
it?
stories. 5 stories.
Now it's 5 stories, not
Yes.
6?
5.
5, okay.
30 units, 5 stories.
And that's going to stay like that?
Yep.
Or is it open to change?
Nope. And you see, Mr. Stitt, I know you asked a bunch of questions in there, but you have to understand that around the proposed new REM system, there are opportunities for building higher density buildings that will attract the commuter. And in many cases, folks that have one car or no car, because their primary transportation option, it will be public transit. And this is something that is known around all train stations, particularly now with the REM. And so this lot in question, which was the old Omar Plus restaurant, which is now another one, is the land that's slated to be developed into this 5-story building. It sits on a main artery, main bus routes, the train station. It doesn't have any neighboring residents except the ones on 4th, which are almost across the street from the Legion, after the entrance to the parking lot. So there is that buffer, albeit maybe not as much as some would like. It's not sitting directly adjacent to any residential property. It's sitting in that little island in the middle of the parking lot. And all of that was taken into consideration. And again, the promoter and the developer of this and the seller of these condos certainly is going to be seeking people that take public transit, because you wouldn't necessarily buy something in a transport-oriented development if you weren't focused on taking, you know, that transport option. And so this is what is everyone's hoping for. And in all other areas, in Kirkland, in Pointe Claire, in Boucherville, all along the Deux Montagnes line, where there's opportunity to build, they're building buildings that will accommodate the user of this public transit option. And so this is encouraging for us, because it's also revitalizing an area of Roxboro that's over 100 years old now. And so we need that rejuvenation, if you will, in the area, and that's one of the opportunities that we saw that fit within our planning for that area, and we welcome those types of investments.
Well, just a comment, it can be good and bad depending on, often there's a lot of stuff that goes on near transit hubs that is negative, higher crime rates, people hanging around, et cetera, but that's just a comment.
Thank you.
Thank you. My second question is, it's regarding the high-rise building that's going on, a 12-story high-rise on the corner of Gouin and Riviera. I know that's not on tonight's agenda.
Rue Boisset.
Sorry, Rue Boisset. It's not on tonight's agenda.
Yeah.
But at the urban planning meeting April the 3rd, very recently, the concerns again were densification, construction, noise, pollution, parking, and also I think the main concern that I have and others would be, again, it's in a 12 and a 20 and a 100-year floodplain where that building is being built. So
what's your question, sir?
why are we building in floodplains?
Well, first of all, the whole property isn't on a floodplain. The 20-year floodplain, which is in the back of that property, you can't develop on it. The front section is in a 100-year floodplain, and there are specific criteria in terms of building in a 100-year floodplain. And that building in particular, it is a seniors building that will be built that will serve a need to our senior community because we have very few, if any, in our borough. And so it's a parcel of land that sits adjacent to some other high-rise buildings on Rive-Boisée, as well as the one across the street on Gouin. And it was fitting for it to be in that location because it meets all the requirements and regulations as it is now. And when they speculated that land, they looked at opportunities, and one of the opportunities that we felt was beneficial to our community was to build a seniors residence. And so that is what's slated to be built there. In terms of the noise and pollution, I mean, that. Certainly you're going to have some inconveniences when there will be building going on, as you have in any major development, but we will try to minimize that as much as we can and not affect the neighboring residents. And even there, you don't have necessarily homes that are right across or adjacent to that property because it's on the corner of really two main arteries where other buildings sit. And the parking will be something that is being addressed by the urban planning department to make sure that we have adequate parking for the residents that live there and the ones, of course, that visit.
Well, as you recall, when they put up the building on the opposite corner finally and finished that building, the contractors took up half of that block from Gouin heading along Rive-Boisée. And some of the condo owners in the building adjacent, I assume 160, were very concerned about
I understand, Mr.
the same thing happening and
yeah.
the noise. But in a way, you could say it's ironic because I remember Madame Worth.
We're talking about today, though, sir.
Yeah, but she opened the floodgate for development of those condo buildings down on Rive-Boisée. So and she was there at that meeting on the 3rd. And I can't even remember what she said because I just closed my ears. But
no, but Mr.
in a way, it's ironic that she might be affected by the noise that she allowed to happen years ago.
Mr. Stitt, just to end this, and I appreciate you taking the time to voice your opinion. I'm sure you did on the 3rd as well, and I appreciate that as well. However, you have to understand that any time there's a construction of this magnitude, you will have some inconvenience. But in the end, it is a facility that's lacking in Pierrefonds-Roxboro, and it'll give an opportunity for the seniors that choose to stay local, where they've lived all their lives, a place to be close to home. And we looked at it on all those fronts. And of course, you're right, there will be an inconvenience. And in terms of the parking down Rive-Boisée and stuff, we'll make sure we put measures in place to eliminate or limit not the inconvenience, but the disruption to the folks that live on that street. So we've thought of all this stuff already, but
Mr. Mayor, let me interrupt you on that point because, as we know, on Paul Pouliot, those poor residents that lived on that street with that building going up, breaking all the violations constantly and just willing to pay the fines instead of being a good contractor, I guess you could say.
Well, Mr. Stitt, we can't
the
always control.
guarantees that you might want to put in place.
Mr. Stitt, respectfully, we can't control, and we'll end it there, then we'll let someone else ask a question. But on Paul Pouliot, as you know, there were specific issues. We were addressing them. Our inspectors were there constantly. We were finding them. We opened up the parking lot on Pierrefonds Boulevard. I don't know if you had a chance to see. That rectified itself slowly. There was, of course, an inconvenience because there was two major buildings being built virtually at the same time. So yes, there are issues that we deal with when there are major construction projects like this, but it's impossible. It is completely impossible, Mr. Stitt, for any administration to eliminate any inconvenience when it comes to these types of projects. All we can do is work with our teams and the developers the builders, to make sure that they are as respectful as possible to the residents that live there. And I have to tell you, that's a constant challenge, I must tell you.
I
Thank you,
understand.
Mr. Stitt.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Gauvreau, je m'excuse. Jean-Philippe Gauvreau.
Bonsoir, M. le maire.
Bonsoir.
Ça va bien?
Ça va bien, vous?
Ça va très bien. Ce serait pour adresser un problème qu'il y a eu cet hiver au parc Brooke,
Oui.
principalement au parc Caché.
Oui.
Cette année, il y a eu probablement 0 déneigement des 3 portes, des 2 portes en fait existantes, puis la troisième étant dans le milieu pour séparer les 2 parcs, là. Ça a été fait par les citoyens.
Oui.
Moi et quelques-uns des résidents qui sont là tous les soirs ou presque. Et si je me rappelle bien, il y a eu seulement 2 fois où le passage piéton dans le parc, pour aller au parc à chiens, justement, a été nettoyé pendant tout l'hiver. Ça fait que des fois, on avait soit de la glace très dangereuse où il fallait marcher pour aller jusqu'au parc parce qu'on n'a pas le choix, c'est pas directement sur la rue. Je me demandais si ça serait possible d'adresser ça pour l'année prochaine pour pas que ça arrive, ce problème-ci.
Je vais vous dire que ça se peut que cette année, c'était comme ça.
Oui.
Et je vais vous dire honnêtement, sans faire des excuses, c'était à cause aussi de la température qu'on a eue, où on avait toutes les ressources sur les rues. Et oui, c'est important, mais ce n'était pas nécessairement la priorité.
Ça, je comprends absolument.
Mais je vous
qu'est-ce
dis...
que je veux mentionner, c'est qu'il n'y a pas une personne qui est déjà en charge de l'entretien du parc. Ça devrait faire partie de ses tâches régulières de maintenir la patinoire qui est là,
Oui.
de maintenir le parc en tant que tel. Je sais que l'équipement qui est dans ce coin-là pour justement faire ça.
Oui, mais écoutez, c'est bien noté. On va travailler avec les services. M. Baudouin est là. Il prend ça en note.
Parfait.
Et on va vérifier le fonctionnement de ce parc pour voir si, avant tout, si on est capable de faire ça avec la machinerie qu'on utilise un peu partout ou l'agent, l'employé qu'on a dans le parc qui
Ouais,
prend
c'est ça.
soin du reste.
Parce que ça se fait très bien. Tu sais.
Effectivement.
Non,
je suis
si
d'accord
c'est fait
avec vous.
régulièrement, comme qu'on fait à la maison, chacun chez soi nettoyer son entrée,
Effectivement.
ça se fait facilement.
Non, effectivement. Effectivement, et c'est bien noté. Et comme j'ai dit, on a investi beaucoup dans ce parc pour que ça soit fonctionnel. Et encore, sans faire des excuses, cette année, c'était très, très, très difficile pour les services et les employés. Et pour moi, la seule raison, c'est parce que ce n'était pas priorisé à cause de la température qu'on a eue. Mais c'est noté. J'espère, on va prendre soin de ça, M. Baudouin, pour l'année prochaine. Merci.
Parfait, merci.
Merci beaucoup.
Madame Martha Band.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Also, I'd like to make a comment or question on 40.05
Sure.
that Mr. Stitt brought up. I was also at the public urban planning meeting, which is not recorded. And another request we've been asking is to put the Urban Planning Advisory Committee minutes online, as they are in many other places, such as Il Bazaar, St. Genevieve. And we've gotten nowhere on that issue with Madame Talbot. Just every month she acknowledged, I'm thinking about it,
Thank you.
okay?
What's your question then, ma'am?
So I would also like to know when that's going to happen. I have now heard that that building will be 3 different heights,
The building on...
proposed to take the place of the restaurant at,
Yes.
whatever, 500 Gouin,
well, I'm telling
which
you
is
that
a
it's 5
Heritage
stories.
Boulevard on
I'm
top of
telling you
that.
that it's 5 stories.
Okay. The promoter said, out of order, behind me, 4 stories maximum. But you're asking for 6.
We're saying 5, ma'am.
Well, then it should be for 5 in the draft bylaw. It should not be for 6.
It's up
And
to 6.
there is a mezzanine.
It's up to 6, ma'am.
Okay,
and
there
it's
is a
5.
mezzanine.
You're not letting me tell you.
Yeah.
You're not letting me tell you. It
You're
says
not
up to
mentioning
6.
the mezzanine.
It says up to 6, but it's going to be 5. I've confirmed that with you tonight. We're being recorded. It's going to be 5 stories, 30 units. So,
Okay.
I'm not sure, I wasn't at the CCU, Madame Castonguay, est-ce que c'est vrai ça?
The promoter told us 5.
Yes.
But we're on a project at the present moment, so it's the first reading, so it will be changed by the second project.
Okay.
So when?
And it's 30 units?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay.
yes.
It still doesn't address the issues brought up there and mentioned by Mr. Stitt?
Well, if I can just stop you, please, because what Mr. Stitt raised, I addressed in terms of him saying that there were some residents from 4th Avenue South, a little concerned about people having a building next to them peering into their yard or in their homes. And I mentioned that, unfortunately, when you build these types of facilities and they're close to residential, single-family dwellings, bungalows in this case, you're inevitably going to have folks that are concerned with this eventuality. The thing about this project is it's not adjacent to that first property. It sits on Gouin at the corner and 4th and Gouin, and it has that buffer zone of the entrance into the parking lot.
Which is very narrow,
And then there's a grass strip with trees that are planted there as well.
also very narrow.
But of course, Mrs. Bond, I can't have a football field between the properties. We're in
What
a-
about
in a-
restrictions
but we're
on
in a zoning-
windows?
We're in a zoning, well, they haven't gone through that process yet for the design of the
But
building.
that comes after the request is made.
Well, of
So then
course,
it's too late.
But Mrs. Bond, you're asking a million questions, and I'm trying to answer them as best I can. All I'm trying to tell you is that you know how it works.
It could be put
meets
into the
requirements
zoning
of the
bylaw.
zone. No, but the zoning for that facility there, it goes there. It meets the requirements to be built there. Now, the rest, in terms of the design, the architectural planning, whether he's going to go 5 or 6 or 4 stories, all that comes later. You know how it works, the process. You may not be for that project, and I understand, but I'm trying to tell you as clearly as I can that there's a process that we go through now once this project is deposited in the first reading. And then there'll be a second draft, and then so on. You know the process. So if there comes a time where there's something that you're not happy with, I'm sure you'll be able to voice your opinion at that point.
Well, the process is too late.
But it's
So
not
it
too-
should be incorporated into the bylaw.
But what I'm saying to you is that we are for building this facility in that area, Mrs. Bond. We are for building
And
this and
disturbing
revitalizing
your
that area.
the neighbors and possibly affecting their property value.
Not at all. I think it's
But
gonna,
you're
I think the
approving a
REM, Mrs. Bond, and we're gonna end it here there because we've asked a lot of questions and I have other folks too, and I'd like to get to them before the end of council, if I could, please. The REM in every community, regardless of whether you're for the REM or not, will boost the revitalization of all these areas and probably, I don't study real estate, but inevitably will raise the value of the homes around the REM because people will seek out these homes to live close to a train system of this caliber. And I'm not telling you this because I'm telling you this. I'm telling you this because
Do you
this is
have
what
proof?
the speculators are saying.
Do you have any
Well-
study that backs up what
Well,
you're
what I
saying?
recommend you do
Is that your opinion?
Well, what I recommend you, it's my opinion, but what I recommend you do is when we have these public sessions, the public session on the 5th, I welcome you, Mrs. Bond, and I'm sure you'll be there. Come and ask the questions to the experts that'll be in that room, and I'm sure they'll gladly give you those statistics of what's happening in other communities aside from Roxboro and in Pierrefonds down the way. So I welcome you to come to these sessions, Mrs. Bond, and I'm sure they'll be able to give you that information then.
And we'll talk
Thank
more
you.
about that
Yes,
at
of
that
course.
time.
Thank you, Mrs.
My
Bond.
other point was also about Marceau.
Mrs.
I
Bond,
believe
Marceau,
you
we're
got
passing tonight.
a letter from the other neighbor?
Well, Miss, I don't have anything. What we
An
have here,
email.
I don't
Did you
have.
get an email from the neighbors on the other side of what is it, 5905?
If I got it in the last day or so, I haven't seen it. If they sent it, I don't think they sent anything before because I haven't
Okay.
seen it, and I look at all my emails.
Okay.
So if they sent
I'm
it in the last.
surprised.
What's that?
I'm surprised.
You're
because
surprised I read all my emails?
I found out about it last week, that they were sending you an email. It was probably toward the end of last week.
I'm sorry to laugh, Mrs. Bond, but thank you very much. And I haven't seen that email yet, but I plan to get to it when I see
But
it.
they raised the same points that were brought up earlier today.
And they're valid points. I told
Okay.
Mrs. Walton
Just want to
that was
make sure
here.
you know about it. Good thing I mentioned it, since
Mrs.
you
Bond,
didn't
I
get
know
your email.
everything. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mrs. Joanne Dalton?
I'm
Mrs. Joanne Dalton?
I'm sorry,
pardon.
Madam Bond.
hang on, ma'am.
What I said, I didn't say that I'll think about it. I said, I hear you. I said that to Monsieur Stitt. And I wouldn't say that I will think about it. And our services are aware. Thank you.
Thank you, Madame Talbot. Madame Corbeil? Thank you, Mrs. Bond.
Mrs. Joanne Dalton, if you want to go to the microphone, please.
Bonsoir, Monsieur le maire.
Bonsoir, bonsoir.
Je m'excuse, je vais soulever un point qui va peut-être...
Ah, c'est correct, madame, on est là pour ça.
D'accord.
We take the good like we take the bad.
OK.
It's okay.
Bon. Je vais essayer de le faire le plus positif possible
Allez,
aussi.
allez.
Je demeure au 160
Je sais.
Rive-Boisée, chemin de la Rive-Boisée.
Oui.
Comme vous savez,
Oui.
je travaille aussi
Oui.
comme bénévole de l'autre côté de la rue.
Oui.
L'unité, la résidence qui est proposée, je pense que c'est une bonne idée pour les aînés de Pierrefonds-Roxboro. Et puis, 239 unités, c'est quelque chose de très gros. 239 unités, dont 30 sont des unités de soins. Alors, on peut dire au-dessus de 200 unités de logement. Oui. Et il y a seulement 115 places de stationnement à l'intérieur. Et à l'extérieur, d'après ce que j'ai vu sur les plans proposés, environ 8 places de stationnement à l'extérieur.
Oui. 18.
18. Ah, c'est déjà mieux que je pensais. Ça va être encore... Ah, ça a changé depuis ce que j'ai reçu. D'accord, merci beaucoup. Mais 18 places de stationnement, c'est vraiment pas beaucoup, à mon avis, pour des 239 unités de logement. Je comprends que le promoteur nous dit la plupart des personnes âgées, puis je m'excuse d'avance pour paraphraser, mais n'ont plus d'auto à cause de leur âge ou vont se débarrasser de leur auto éventuellement bientôt, au fur et à mesure qu'ils vieillissent. Ma mère a 88, a encore sa voiture, alors j'y crois plus ou moins. Et j'ai bien peur que le stationnement se fasse seulement sur Rive-Boisée ou de l'autre côté quand ils vont demander la permission à la ville d'utiliser un des terrains, peut-être sur le carrefour des aînés aussi, ce qui me fait très peur. Alors, je me demandais s'il y avait une possibilité soit d'émettre des permis de stationnement réservés pour les gens de Rive-Boisée plutôt que d'avoir à accueillir tous les visiteurs, employés et le débordement des 230 moins 115 unités des personnes qui vont aller résider là. Parce qu'on se retrouve, quand on veut sortir du stationnement, on se retrouve avec un problème s'il y a plusieurs voitures de stationner. Pour le moment, Rive-Boisée n'est pas vraiment un problème de stationnement parce qu'on est autorisé à l'année longue à stationner.
Effectivement.
Mais je vois le problème s'en venir. Je me demande s'il y aurait quelque chose qui est en préparation, s'il y a moyen de mettre peut-être des miroirs pour quand on sort de notre stationnement et peut-être réserver certaines places aux résidents de la Rive-Boisée, du chemin de la
Regardez
Rive-Boisée.
qu'est-ce que je vais faire, parce que sont valides les inquiétudes que vous avez. Je vais demander à M. Gignac, il part en vacances, je pense, demain.
Oh, chanceux.
Très chanceux. Dès son retour, il va communiquer avec vous, puis vous pouvez discuter ensemble quelques solutions, de lui faire part de la situation. Il va venir chez vous. Vous pouvez peut-être, je ne vais pas dire à M. Gignac quoi faire, mais vous allez manger. Peut-être vous pouvez manger au carrefour des aînés, peut-être.
Peut-être qu'on peut se faire un cuisine
Quand je fais la cuisine, en
oui,
plus,
c'est ça.
effectivement.
Oui.
Mais il va venir vous visiter, puis là, on est fatigué, hein? Et là, vous pouvez vérifier le stationnement actuel, voir si on a des changements à faire au niveau du stationnement. Et Mme Castonguay va communiquer encore, puis jusqu'à la fin, avec le promoteur pour trouver d'autres solutions et voir comment il pense d'avoir le stationnement nécessaire dans ce bâtiment de 200 et plus, avec le nombre déjà dédié au stationnement. C'est pas terminé encore. Je sais que le service travaille encore sur d'autres solutions. Mais si c'était pour utiliser le stationnement au Carrefour des Aînés, n'inquiétez-vous pas, c'est pas ça qu'on va faire. C'est pas ça que je veux non plus. Le seul temps qu'on a utilisé le stationnement du Carrefour des Aînés, c'était pendant la construction. Non, mais pendant la construction du bâtiment de l'autre côté, pour les travailleurs, pour les entreprises. Au lieu de les laisser surivoiser, on a dit, mais gardez, vous pouvez stationner en partie dans le stationnement de Carrefour des Aînés. Mais plus que ça, là, n'inquiétez-vous pas, ce n'est pas un stationnement résidentiel, c'est un stationnement pour les groupes comme le Carrefour des Aînés et les autres pour faire les activités. Ça, c'est interdit. Et on va s'assurer que c'est interdit.
Et d'ailleurs, excusez.
Le reste, on va travailler avec vous, avec le comité de M. Gignac et Mme Castonguay pour trouver d'autres solutions. Mais ce n'est pas des choses qu'on n'a pas pensées. Hein. Vous savez, on pense à ça tout le temps. Même à Roxboro, avec l'autre bâtiment, on est en train de revoir le stationnement sur rue. On a la Légion de l'autre côté aussi, avec un stationnement limité. On ne veut pas prendre ces stationnements-là et donner les stationnements aux gens de bâtiments. Le promoteur a le droit d'informer les acheteurs potentiels qu'ils ont un stationnement seulement. Et s'ils viennent avec deux, malheureusement, il n'y a pas de stationnement pour deux. Et c'est ça qu'ils font à Montréal aussi. C'est 1,2 maintenant de cases de stationnement par logement.
Oui, mais pour les résidences, c'est 0,46, 0,45,
oui, parce qu'avec
avec
l'évaluation qu'on fait pour les édifices de personnes âgées, effectivement, ce n'est pas tout le monde qui ont des autos. Et c'est pour cette raison que c'est beaucoup plus bas que le 1,2, 1,4 en temps normal. Mais n'inquiétez-vous pas, on est déjà sur le dossier, Mme Talbot, Mme Castonguay, et avec M. Gignac, dès son retour, il va communiquer avec vous pour au moins se situer de la situation.
D'accord. De toute façon, je pense que pendant la construction du 155 Rive-Boisée, les travailleurs avaient le droit de stationner, mais pas dans le stationnement du Carrefour, celui qui est en arrière, celui qui est en gravel près de... plus près de la caserne.
Mais c'est ça qu'on va essayer de faire, de ne pas déranger pas juste les activités, mais la vie des résidents dans ce quartier.
C'est parce que c'est des aînés aussi au Carrefour.
Effectivement, effectivement.
Je vous remercie
beaucoup. Bonne soirée.
Merci.